Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode on the Changemakers podcast. Today's episode features Shweta from DXE, Direct Action Everywhere. She is the co-lead for social media and of their international network of chapters, and she is a very passionate animal rights activist. Shweta and I met in Mumbai. She's actually based in Pune, but we've been following each other for a while, and she travels to Mumbai from time to time, so we managed to meet in Mumbai to record for the podcast and to meet for the first time. It was so nice to meet her. She's such a kind soul, and she's so passionate about what she does. So in this episode, we'll be talking primarily about her work with Direct Action Everywhere. So DXE is a global network of activists working to achieve revolutionary social and political change for animals in one generation. They work on changing systems, and they have campaigns such as the Right to Rescue and the Animal Bill of Rights. So Shweta shares about DXE's animal rescue cases where, for example, the animals were rescued from farms, but the activists then were faced with legal charges for rescuing the animals, such as the recent Ridglan Farms trial, where the activists are facing jail time for rescuing 3 beagles from animal testing facilities in the United States. Just a disclaimer, Shweta and I recorded this episode mid-trial while the Ridglan trial was going on, and since recording the episode, all charges have actually been dropped on the DXE activists. Tune in to hear Shweta discuss all about the animal activism work with DXE, as well as her own activism and her personal vegan journey story. I really enjoyed hearing all about DXE's work and what they're trying to achieve for animal rights in the world, so I hope you will too. Without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Shweta. Hi, Shweta. Thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah. This is actually our first time meeting in real life because we've been following each other for a while, and I know everything that you're up to and what you do, but this is the first time actually interacting in real life. So I'm very happy that you came to Bombay. You're based in Pune, I understood.
Yeah, I'm based in Pune and just traveling between Pune and Mumbai.
Yeah. So I'm happy you made it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So could you give a little bit of an introduction about yourself, what it is that you do and why it is that you do it?
Yeah, so I'm an animal rights activist. I think I've been one for like 8 years or so. And currently I am the co-lead of Direct Action Everywhere's social media, as well as their international network of chapters.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how long have you been working with Direct Action Everywhere?
I think about 6 years.
And are you the only India-based? Is DXE completely the States-based? Or?
So DXE is basically an international network, but I would say that they're primarily based off of Berkeley in California.
Nice.
And currently I'm the only DXE person in India.
But they organize as well. You said they have a chapter in India.
Yeah, so we've got like chapters, around like 30 chapters all over the world. So currently we don't have one in India, but I used to organize one in Pune.
Nice.
So it's all over.
Could you share a little bit about what DXE does for people who don't know?
Yeah, so DXE, at DXE, like our main mission is to create social political revolution for the animals in one generation. So we basically work on changing systems instead of changing individuals. And we have got a bunch of campaigns, right, like the Right to Rescue and the Animal Bill of Rights that we are trying to work on. There's also a campaign called No More Factory Farms, which we are trying to pass in California, which will basically mean that there'll be no factory farms allowed to be built in that area.
Wow,
So,
huge.
yeah.
I love it. I love that it's so practical as well. Like you're actually trying to implement like actual practical change versus, just trying to, create individual change, like getting people to go vegan. You're actually just looking at the institutional change, which
Yeah.
is
We're trying to get certain like policy changes that'll help animals, at large.
Yeah. So what I know from DXE is what I see on social media, which is actually your work, I guess, since you're like doing the social media, is all these cases of rescuing animals from farms.
Yeah.
Which is actually so crazy that a lot of people are being jailed for that. And it's insane to imagine that they go into these farms and they rescue these injured animals who are basically on the verge of dying, and they need to be rescued in order to live. And then the farm that they rescue the animals from still, puts a case on them for like trespassing and etc. Could you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so basically in California, there's a law, I think it's 597E, wherein basically if there's a dog that is trapped inside a hot car, or if there's a dog or cat trapped inside a house which is on fire, you basically have the right to break the window of the car or break into that house and rescue that animal, and you won't be charged with destruction of property or like trespassing, right? Because the purpose of you doing that was to save the animal, right? So what we're saying at DXC is that we have evidence of so many animals which are dying in factory farms because of starvation, because of lack of access to water, because these are just like massive facilities, and just by the design of it, a lot of animals don't get access to food and water, or they just die because of getting stamped on each other. And so many things. And by the way, all of these factory farms are so-called certified humane organic factory farms, which serve which sell in places like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, right? So what we are saying is we have evidence of animals who are starving to death, and by that same logic, or just like burning in heat, so by that same logic of the law, we should have the right to enter inside these factory farms and rescue these animals. So the activists at DXC, so we do this thing called as open rescue, where because we're doing the right thing, we're doing things by law and not illegally. So we don't cover our faces or anything. We just enter inside of these places and rescue animals. And then our argument in court is that, see, we have all of this evidence of these very animals starving to death, and if we wouldn't have rescued them, they would have died right then. So what we have done is not really trespassing or burglary or any of that, but it's we are upholding the law actually by doing that. So there was this, I would say, historic case in animal rights history, which is where two activists, Wayne Shung and Paul Darwin Pickelsheimer, they went inside a pig factory farm in Utah, which is owned by Smithfield, which is the largest pork producer in the world. And they went there and rescued two very tiny piglets. Their names are Lily and Lizzie. And both of them were on the verge of dying. Like, if they wouldn't have rescued them and treated them, they would have definitely died. The whole case was covered in the New York Times and The Intercept. Like, Glenn Greenwald, which is a world-renowned journalist, he also covered the case. So it got a lot of noise, and Smithfield was really angry, so they pressed a lot of felony charges on these activists. But the interesting part is, in Utah, if you, let's say, for example, go inside a superstore and try to steal a television set or any inanimate object, you will basically be charged by a simple misdemeanor or something, just for stealing it. But here they basically tried to, in their words, steal something which is of no economic value, but they were charged with a lot of felony charges, which is very surprising. But what DXC argued was that, basically both of these piglets, Lily and Lizzie, they were having a lot of infections. And what happens in these factory farms, because they are so close to each other, they were tiny, in farrowing cages or gestation cages, what they call it. So they would have easily infected the piglets that were that were in that same crate. So by rescuing them, they even avoided this infection to be spread, right? And the medical charges, the veterinary charges for treating these animals were over $500, right? And they are sold for barely like $30-$40 by Smithfield. So our argument was that Smithfield would have never put that kind of money to treat them. Also, their economic value wasn't negative because they already had this infection and had a high chance to spread it to their siblings. So that was our argument, and the judges, the jury agreed with the activists, and they were found to be not guilty. And it was actually Smithfield and the state of Utah that was asked to pay the activists for causing so much trouble. So that was like a historic victory. So we have lots of these cases of activists trying to go inside different factory farms, trying to rescue animals. A current one, Wayne was sentenced to I think 45 days in prison. He served 45 days in prison or something. And just for doing what is legal, and it was, the whole trial was really unfair. The jury were not shown the footage of the factory farm. Like, they were not allowed to see it, which is like, why? If you think it's all legal, why don't you show the footage? And now there are all of these like very weird restrictions on him. Like, he cannot speak with 12 other activists. Like, he cannot communicate with them. But those activists are literally his family, with whom he's been living for many years. So that the whole trial was very like unconstitutional. So he's trying to rebuttal it. Okay. And do you want me to speak about the current case?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So now the current case that we're facing is it's called the Ridglan Trial. Okay. It'll start in a few weeks. And in this case, Wayne, Paul, and Eva, they went inside a dog breeding facility. It's called Ridglan Farms. And it's one of U.S. biggest dog breeding facilities. So they breed...
Like breeders, like for dogs that are of a specific...
Not for pets, for animal testing.
Animal what?
Animal testing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they basically breed beagles.
Yeah.
Which is horrible because... Yeah, because I've, grown up watching movies like Air Buddies and like Bolt and like Marley and Me, and I've always had this image of the US being a dog-friendly country where people love dogs.
Yeah.
But there are all of these facilities still in the US which breed animals so that companies would like test on them, and these tests are horrible. It's not like you just apply a little bit of makeup on them and see what happens. No, they are like gassed, they are force fed, the chemicals are put on their bare skin and whatnot. And and once they're used, they're not even put for adoption, they're just killed.
I think that whole animal testing is just horrible, and the fact that it still happens. And like, I think China has all cosmetics in China must be animal tested, so that any cosmetics sold in China is definitely not vegan or cruelty free. So I know that, and which is just ridiculous because animal testing should be banned. It should be something that's of the past. Like, we should not be testing on test on ourselves. Like, what? Like, it's horrible.
And you don't even need testing because there are already thousands of ingredients that are well tested, so you can just make new products with those same ingredients. Also, like, they're highly unscientific because chemicals react differently on humans and animals, and it's been proven so many times, but for whatever reason they're still doing that. And now Eva, Wayne, and Paul, they're facing 16 years in prison just for rescuing two beagles. 3 beagles.
Wow. 16? Did you
16, yes, 16 years.
That's like the punishment for...
Yeah, that's the maximum punishment that they can get. So that's like the reality that they are facing right now.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and...
Jesus Christ.
It's just horrible. Like, they were all puppies and they are caged. And if you have ever been with a puppy, they are so energetic. And they all constantly want to interact with people. They're not the kind of animals that you just lock up in a cage their whole lives. And they basically, all of them have mental disorders. And in like that small case, they just try to run in circles. So even today, I think one of the dogs still sort of runs in these circles because that's what he was doing. since he was born.
One of the ones who was rescued.
Yeah, one of the beagles that was rescued.
And this is actually legal to test on beagles in the States. It's legal, like
it is
normal
completely
practice.
legal, and in the US people will get outraged when they see Korea or China trying to eat dogs, and they're like, how why can't this country make eating dogs illegal? You know, that's what they're campaigning for. But I think they should also look at the laws in their own country where it's completely legal to do these like horrendous tests on dogs and then just kill them.
And then kill them. Yeah. Do you know more about how they're killed? Are they euthanized, or is it actual like slaughterhouse?
I believe they would be euthanized.
Euthanized because it's dogs versus
also,
like farm animals.
Yeah, by the time they're like of no longer use. They're already in such terrible probably physical conditions that I mean
they would just euthanize them and put them in. Yeah. This world is messed up, and it's messed up so much that the whole that the people who rescue animals get face jail time. It's the most ridiculous thing ever, because like you said, with the if we weren't to go into those farms, it would never reach the public of like what happens in farms, which is why it's so necessary to do that, because they're purposely hiding it and trying to not get us to go in. And that's why they make it illegal, right? Because they don't want the truth to come out.
Yeah, and they're like special laws. They're called the ag-gag laws. Which they are specially made to make sure that activists don't come inside these factory farms, because they're just so scared of activists coming in and exposing them.
So that's why all the jail time, they're just scared. They're just scared that the truth will come out, and that's why they put all these trying to stop us with so much, legalities.
Yeah.
And well, it's amazing that DXC exists and that there's these activists doing this, and it's scary for sure for all of them who are putting themselves at risk for by doing this. But it's definitely amazing. I'd love to get back to you.
Okay.
How long have you been vegan?
I've been vegan for I think 9 years, something like that.
Amazing. And what was it that transitioned you to veganism?
Yeah, so I always loved animals.
Yeah.
I was scared of them, but I liked them from afar.
Like all animals you were scared of?
I'm still really scared. I think now I'm a little I'm not scared of dogs and cats anymore.
I was gonna say, are you scared of
no,
this
I'm
dog here?
not scared of Cookie. but otherwise I'm really scared of animals for some reason. But I think they're really nice and like just beautiful creatures.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should torture them. So yeah, that was I guess the foundation. And then what happened is there's basically this dish in Maharashtra. It is called as kharvas, where you take the first milk of the cow, which is called as the colostrum, mix that with sugar, and then steam it, and it turns into a pudding, right? So it's like a specialty in the state of Maharashtra and also all over India.
The first milk.
Yes, the first milk right after birth.
Nasty.
So yeah, it's very nasty because it's very thick. That's why it turns into jelly or pudding like consistency, and it's basically made to have a lot of fats and proteins so that the calf will get the nutrition right after birth.
Of course, yeah.
And it's a thing in all mammals, right? So it's eaten in India, and I used to love eating that. And when I was in 10th grade, one of my class teachers, she said that there's this organization which lets the calf drink the colostrum, his own mother's milk or his own milk, and the organization pays the dairy farmer to let him drink the milk. And she was like, you guys also, when you guys grow up and start earning money, you all should also donate to these kinds of organization. And I had no idea that milk was like the first milk of the cow, and I was like, this is horrible. We shouldn't have to pay for the calf to drink his own mother's milk. It's something he is entitled to. So that's when I stopped eating kharvas, and then I came across information on I think it was Peter's post on Instagram, which talked about all milk is basically meant for the calf to drink. And for whatever reason, I had no idea for first 15 years of my life that cows don't just produce milk magically. They have to be impregnated and they have to give birth in order to produce milk. So I had no idea about this fact. I just thought, somehow cows are just made to give humans milk. So then I was like, okay, this is not right, because then I started noticing all the cows, basically pregnant inside dairy farms and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so they are basically impregnating them so that they would give milk. So I stopped consuming milk. And similarly with eggs, so I used to also eat eggs. So I found out that after I think barely like 1 or 2 years of forcibly making the hen lay lots of eggs, the hens are killed. So I was like, okay, if I'm eating eggs, I'm basically paying for the hen being killed after a few months of torture.
Wow.
So then I stopped eating eggs. And even with eggs, interestingly, I used to eat cage-free organic eggs, which were like 10x the price, because while paying that extra money, I used to think, oh, I'm doing something really good for these hens, I'm letting them be in the sunlight and walk on the grass and all of that. And then I went inside a cage-free factory farm and saw animals that were starved to death. I also saw animals that had cannibalized each other because they had no access to food. And these were so-called cage-free egg farms. So what they do is they don't put them in cages, but they put them in one big space, but then they just cramp them all together. So you might as well put them in a cage. Like what's the difference? So that was my vegan journey. So I found out about these things and I stopped it.
That's so cool that you really consciously made that decision to be vegan for the animals once you found out that what you're contributing to is contributing to their death. Because I'm guessing you didn't eat meat, like you didn't grow up.
No, I didn't eat meat. I was in like born in a pescatarian family.
Okay.
I always wanted to eat meat because I was a big fan of MasterChef Australia. so and I wanted to be a chef also at that time.
Really?
So I really wanted to, but it just like I thought it was really weird to like eat an animal.
Yeah. It is weird to eat an animal. It's true, and we've been indoctrinated with this idea that it's normal to do that when it's definitely not normal to eat like a living being. But that's so cool that, like you said, that you made that connection. And what's actually even cooler is that you said you're scared of animals, which I actually really love, because people think, like, literally recently I was at this dinner and this girl was, I said that I was vegan, and she was like, oh, so you really must love animals. And like, I'm just like, yes, I do love animals, actually. Like, in my head I was thinking like, yes, it's true, but like, it's not my love for animals. It's just it's a normal thing it should be normal to not want to cause unnecessary harm to animals. And it's like, just me being vegan doesn't mean that because I love animals I'm not gonna eat them. No, we shouldn't be eating them because we have no actual justification for eating them,
Yeah, I mean, I don't like babies either. It doesn't mean we go around killing
I know
children.
It's just justification doesn't hold up. And I love that for you, especially because you're so vegan for the animals, and then that you're scared of animals. Like, it's a great, you're proving that that the misconception that you have to love animals, when it's like, you don't have to love animals. Just realize that this is just the right thing to do, is to not exploit them, not put them in cages, not eat them, not use them, etc.
Yep.
And so you've been vegan for 8-9 years, and then what about your animal activism journey? Because you're so you've done so much animal activism. You've worked with $1 Million Vegan, Animals Saved, DXE. How did that start for you? Did that start immediately after turning vegan, or?
I think it started like maybe 2-3 months after going vegan.
Really?
Because
cool.
I started coming across all of these vegan activist YouTubers like Earthling Ed and Joey Carbstrong, and I really wanted to do that, but I had no idea there was a thriving activist community in Pune.
Nice.
So I got to know about them and immediately joined them. So I think I was 16 when I started doing activism with them.
Wow.
So probably like, I don't know how many years that is.
7? I think.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and I used to also organize adoption camps before that in Pune.
No way.
Yeah.
What do you mean adoption camps? Like,
So we just basically get some place like a school, like a school or something, or some abandoned hall or something like that.
okay.
And we'd put advertisements in the newspaper that there's this adoption camp happening. So all the people who were fosters or who had rescued an animal, they would all come. We would register them to like a
So
quick
nice.
medical checkup, and then put them all in this like pen, massive pen, all the puppies in a pen, and then people would come who wanna adopt
Yeah.
these babies, and
I love that.
it used to be awesome. Like 30-40 puppies would get adopted
That's
easily in every camp.
amazing. And that would just be like the whole day that you like how often
Yeah.
or
Um,
like was it just you kept them there for the day and that's it?
Yeah, so it used to happen once a month, and the whole day basically. We'd start early
Amazing.
morning. and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that because it's there are people who want to adopt, but it's always hard to find adoption, and you have to do it via Facebook and everything. So this is so nice to just have a day where just all these puppies are getting forever homes and
Yeah.
beautiful. So you've always been active in the animal rescue thing, even this is for the strays, and then your animal activism started, and then DXC joined, like that started right after because you've been working with them for like 6 years. Amazing. So about DXC, I mean, you were talking to me earlier about this Rose's Law, and they said that you really want to share about that. Could you share a bit about that?
Yeah, so in 2018, activists went inside this organic chicken farm, and they all went in broad daylight inside, and they rescued a bunch of chickens who were just in dire medical need. The activists went inside and tried to give them this medical aid, but then the farms, they called up the police, and the police arrested like a bunch of activists. But the worst thing was that they snatched all of these birds from activists' hands and put them back. And they just like desperately needed care, and obviously the factory farms cannot give that kind of care because that's not what they're here for, as well as they cannot go on spending upwards of $500 on each chicken to give them like the veterinary care. But one of the police, I think she was a policewoman, she felt really sad for one of those chickens, and she let the activist go with the hen.
Okay.
So I think that was a very significant thing that happened, where the police let her go, and we named this hen as Rose, and now we have a full campaign by her name. It's called as the Rose's Law, or the Animal Bill of Rights. So what these are is a bill of 5 rights which we want to eventually pass. So the laws are the right to not be exploited or killed, the right to have freedom or a guardian, and a right to not be owned. The third one is the right to have legal representation. The fourth one is the right to a natural habitat or a protected home. And the fifth one is the right to be rescued from places of distress, which is the one we are currently working on the most.
Yeah.
And hopefully one day we pass all of these laws and we'll have an animal bill of rights everywhere around the world. So these are just like extremely basic fundamental rights every sentient human being should have.
Amazing.
So yeah.
So literally ultimately fighting for animal rights, actually that it's implemented in the law that the animals have the right to not be exploited, and it's amazing.
Yep. So when we say we want animal liberation, we basically want these 5 laws to be implemented in society.
Yeah, I really pray for that we, have a world like that, because there's so much animal suffering happening, and it's so our society is so unaware, that we're contributing to all this suffering.
Yeah.
I love that there's so many actually animal activists in India and people who care, and maybe it stems from the fact that a larger part of the population is vegetarian, maybe. But then again, it comes to like dairy in India, and that people just don't really make that connection there. Could we briefly touch maybe upon that? Like, do you see a vegan India happening anytime soon? Do you think people who are vegetarian in India, do they think they are aware of what happens to these animals in dairy farms in India?
I don't think vegetarians are aware of the consequences of consuming dairy or eggs, or a lot of other things that vegetarians do, like visiting zoos, using products that are tested on animals. I don't think they are aware. Also in India, a lot of people are not vegetarian for ethical reasons, but they might be vegetarian for moral reasons, or things like religious
Cultural,
reasons.
yeah.
Sorry, not yeah. So in India, all the vegetarians are not exactly a vegetarian for the moral or ethical reasons.
Yeah.
A lot of them are vegetarian for religious reasons, or just because their families have been vegetarian. So like, yeah, just like me, I was not aware of these things.
Yeah.
So they aren't either. But I think like things are changing. When I went vegan, like people had no idea about what a vegan is, but now people know that word, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of progress happening because of all of these vegans who are trying to become activists. So I really like this anecdote, which is if you are on a street and if you see someone hitting a dog, in this situation you can basically do three things. One thing is, let the dog be beaten and just pass away, ignore whatever is happening. That's the one thing, and I think the worst thing that you can do in this situation. There's the second thing you can do, that is you can basically go and beat the dog with those guys.
Yeah.
And that's actually the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
And there's another third thing you can do, which is the only ethical moral thing to do, which is to go there and intervene, and stop those people from beating that dog. So I think it's not just enough for us to stop consuming these products of violence, but I think it's really important for us to actively try to do something in order to reduce the suffering in this world. And it need not be just by protesting or doing campaigns or all of the stuff that I'm doing, but can be in various ways, like encouraging people to try vegan recipes, or doing outreach, or whatever it is that you're good at and that you like to do. And I'm extremely hopeful that we will see a world where all animals have these 5 laws from the Animal Bill of Rights, and they have a legal status. They are considered to be a person.
Yeah.
And I think there's so there's this rule called the 3.5% rule. So in there, this sociologist named Erica Chenoweth, she studied all social justice movements throughout history, and she came up with this number of 3.5%, where she said that if you're able to mobilize even 3.5% of the population, you win every single time.
Yeah.
And if you just look at the percentages of the past social justice movements, they're barely even 1%. Like the gay rights movement, the civil rights movement in the US, the Indian independence movements, they mobilized very little tiny percentage of people in the population to take consistent, non-violent, direct action, and they have won. So I think it's very possible for us to do that, because I believe that most people love animals, or feel like they should have rights, or I don't think everyone goes around wanting to exploit animals, right? But I feel like all of these companies, they lie to us by pretending that the animals that they are eating were happy or did not suffer when they were slaughtered. So I think there's this disconnect, or like fraudulent marketing that these companies are doing. And I think when we can stop this, when we can show people the truth and try to mobilize them, get them to speak out, I think we can totally create a world where animals have rights.
Yeah. The 3.5 thing is so interesting, because that's all it takes for the actual movement really,
for any change
take
to
off.
happen.
Yeah. I heard this recently, so that's very encouraging, because even like vegans, we currently make up a small percentage of the population, so it's kind of like we get discouraged and we're like, how are we going to see a vegan world with this little amount of vegans who actually have made the connection that people are so disconnected. But yeah, it's a good number for us to be like, okay, then we have some goals to work towards that. The more vegans are, then 3.5%, and then we can actually.
I would highly encourage activists to have goals, and to have goals surrounding the number of activists that are consistently coming for actions, because it's very hard to make every single person in the vegan in the world vegan, because the number of new people that are being born every single day is higher than the number of new vegans that we are creating right now. So that whole thing is very discouraging. But we don't need to do that. We just need not even, probably like 1% of the world to speak up for animal rights, and we need to mobilize them. So I think counting the number of activists coming every month for activism, that's a really good goal to have.
Yeah, amazing. I wanted to ask, what's next for you, future projects, any upcoming things you're excited about, or maybe with DXE that you're excited about?
Yeah, so I'm currently in law school, so I'm interested to see how that might help in my advocacy, and I am really excited to create like more content, and if anyone wants to start a DXE chapter in their city, please message me. I'd love to onboard you for that.
Awesome. Is there one final message that you'd like to leave the listeners with today?
Yeah, I think like change is really possible. So I don't think people should be discouraged or feel like nothing is going to change, because if you look at social justice movements, they have changed things really fast. Just a couple decades ago, women did not have the right to vote, to right to have to own money or anything like that, but they fought, and now we're living in a very different world for most women. So I think change is very much possible. So I think you should not stop believing in it, and you should work towards it.
I love it. I love that. I recently was at an animal advocacy summit, and Leah Garces, who's the founder of Mercy for Animals, in her speech, she said, we are all here because we have hope, because we're hopeful for a world, where animals are free of exploitation. And that's what's needed, that we kind of have that hope for change. And I love that. Thank you so much. This is so amazing. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Being an animal activist is so hard. It's mentally draining. We do lose hope from time to time. It has its ups and downs where, we see so many animals suffering, and we're like, okay, like when will it stop? But we're working towards it, and I think for me personally, it's one of the most rewarding things. Like, I will never stop fighting for the animals, as hard as it is, like, it's something that we need to keep doing. So I'm happy to have you by my side. I'm happy that the animals have you by their side.
Yeah, and I'm really thankful that you invited me. I love all of the work you do, and I've watched so many of the podcasts that you've done.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for everything you do.
Now you're on it, so on the podcast.
Honored.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for everyone for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Changemakers podcast. My name is farahamberh, and I hope that you enjoyed the episode. If you did, it would really mean the world to me if you could rate the podcast, and also remember to follow the podcast to stay updated on new episodes. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.